And let's dive straight into our debate. Of course, the question that we are asking here on Times Now is the government fighting a losing battle with an adverse sentiment in the market?
And joining us this evening is Dr. Balachandra Mungekar. He's an economist and member of parliament in the Rajya Sabha from the Congress party. Also joining us this evening is Derek O'Brien. He's also the chief whip of the Trinamool Congress and a member of parliament in the Rajya Sabha. Joining us this evening from New Delhi is also Mr. D. Raja. He's a MP of Rajya Sabha and represents the CPI on this debate. Also joining us is Dr. Surjit Bhalla, MD of Oxus Research and Investments, very well-known economist, and his views will be extremely important on what's going on in the economy tonight. And with us in the studio is Mohan Guruswamy. He's the chairman and founder of Center for Policy Alternatives. Welcome to the show, Mohan Guruswamy. And in a little while from now, joining us in a bit will be Piyush Goyal, National Treasurer and Member of Parliament of the Rajya Sabha representing the BJP. It's an important day as far as the markets are concerned. The rupee was in a free fall. It breached the 62 to a dollar mark, and the markets have seen a bloodbath this morning. 700 points down at one point, and that is something that clearly has spooked both North and South blocks. We saw a huddle earlier this morning. But Dr. Mungekar, my first question to you is, it's all about the sentiment at this stage. It just seems that the sentiment is something that the Congress party, the government is unable to control. The rupee is in a free slide. The market's absolute bloodbath today. You may go on saying that it is external factors that is influencing, but there is a problem as far as confidence levels in markets in the rupee is concerned. Would you agree with that?
No, I do not. A simple reason is because all the economists on the panel that you have mentioned, each one of them is quite aware the role of expectations in the functioning of the economy. And the credit goes to John Maynard Keynes when he said in 1936, when he wrote General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money, that basically sometimes the stock exchange market most of the time functions on the role of expectation. Once you get a negative feeling in the market, that feeling spreads with wildfire. And that is why the rupee depreciation, and particularly so far the what is called the collapse of the stock exchange market today by more than 600 points, it is a herd reaction. It is overreaction to what is happening to the Indian economy. And so far Indian stock market is concerned, if we confine our discussion to that, then it has always been unrelated to the real state of the economy. There are certain problems with the economy: current account deficit, inflation, low rate of growth, and fiscal deficit. These are the problems, and government is seized with that. But today to say that the Indian economy is virtually dead, this is absolutely unacceptable to me. During last 2 years and particularly 1.5 years, every currency of every country in the world has depreciated to the extent of 10 to 12%. Every country in the world, including China, between 2011 and 12 has decelerated, including China. Rate of growth in 2011 was around 9.8%. The last year it was 7.8%. My point
Dr.
is, I am not
Mungekar,
running
the
away.
question really is that if it is such a strong rupee and it's just the external factors, then why should the markets react the way they are? The RBI is almost in a state of panic. It's announced several measures on the 13th of August, on the 14th of August, and you know, it almost seems like you don't want investment from India to go abroad. There are all sorts of artificial curbs that are being put. It's almost as if the RBI is panicking, and when the RBI shows these signs of panic, surely you don't expect markets not to react to that level of panic?
I will tell you, during last 1 year, according to me, most of the maximum foreign direct investment in FII particularly gone out of India was not more than 10 billion. Second important point is when government has imposed control on foreign direct investment going out of India, okay, people have reacted and the stakeholders have reacted more than what is considered due. And the third point is, when you are having investment slackness in the domestic economy, this is a temporary measure. This is not the permanent measure that the government of India and the RBI will stick to. This is a temporary measure. The question is, the economists since 1991 Those who wanted that the Indian economy should be totally uncontrolled and integrated in the world economy, the same economists today are talking about that Government of India and Reserve Bank of India should intervene. This is the greatest hypocrisy on their part. Since beginning, I have been independent of what Congress have been saying. Since 91, I have been telling in my independent capacity that economy like India, developing economy with poverty, unemployment cannot be left totally to the free forces of market forces. My point is, whatever measures Reserve Bank of India and Government of India are taking, they will be taking some time to show results. But certainly, as Finance Minister Mr. Chidambaram said, I think we are overreacting to that.
I'll come to the political reactions to what Dr. Mungekar is saying, but let me get in the economist perspective at this stage. Dr. Surjit Bhalla, do you agree with the kind of confidence that Dr. Mungekar is exuding at this moment, or do you think the RBI has completely showed panic and that's what is getting reflected in the free fall of the rupee as well as the market reaction today?
Yeah, I don't understand what economy or planet Mr. Mungekar is talking about. So let me just talk about India and what has happened. And I think it is very critical to understand that the determinants of the rupee, and then we can go to the stock market, but the determinants of the rupee is confidence and confidence. And what has the RBI, and I think it's a bit unfair to blame everything on the RBI because a lot of it emanates from the center. Somebody has to go ahead, and I think for news people, basically for journalists, if you can determine who thought up the policies that the RBI has been pursuing to defend the rupee since mid-July, I think that's a real journalistic scoop. Whether it is the RBI, whether it is the Prime Minister's Economic Council, whether it is the Ministry of Finance, these policies can only be described as mindless. One other point I would like to make.
Do you think it's the certain OSD who has been sent by Mr. Chidambaram to the RBI, Raghuram Rajan?
No. Now, Raghuram Rajan has just entered there. So let me just come to one other point, and that is that basically in the face of all of this, the problems that the Indian economy has been having with high inflation, with the rupee depreciating, with accelerating low growth, the government sees it fit to bring in the controversial food security bill, and the government sees it fit to bring in the creation of the statehood of Telangana. Now, this is just like putting a red rag in front of all the bulls and turning them into bears. I mean, why would you have confidence in any economy whose politicians are so brazenly arrogant that they don't give any thought to what their policies might do? So here it was an open invitation to domestic investors and foreign investors, please sell the rupee. Please sell the rupee, please sell the economy, because you know what? We would create Telangana and we need the food security bill when exactly at this point, which is highly inflationary, when exactly at this point, the government comes out with a set of statistics showing that only 22% of the people are poor.
Okay, let's get in the political voice here because you have raised two very contentious issues as far as this government is concerned. Mr. D. Raja is raising his hand. Mr. Raja, do you think that an attempt that the government possibly could have made of assuring the markets has been lost in the form of, politics ahead of a pre-election year?
I would like to make some quick responses to one, Mr. Mungekar, then one to Mr. Bhalla. Mr. Mungekar was referring to general theory of employment of Keynes. In fact, Keynes justified the state intervention in the economy when it is in crisis. That is the basic philosophy of Keynes. He wanted the state's intervention. And my learned friend, my good friend Mungekar says state should not intervene in economic affairs. I do not I do not agree with that. Now Mr. Bhalla is talking about arrogance of politicians. Okay, then good. State should intervene. Now I react to Mr. Balla. He thinks some politicians are
But Mr.
arrogant.
Raja, the RBI has intervened. The RBI has intervened and it hasn't helped matters at all.
No.
It hasn't helped matters despite the intervention from the RBI. No,
RBI has intervened, that's what it claims. But Mr. Chidambaram, Finance Minister, spoke a different thing in Rajya Sabha. No, it's okay.
I have been saying.
Let me speak, Ms. Mungekar. If you had said it, all right, then you agree with me. There should be intervention from the state in a crisis situation. And now, instead of state intervening, it is corporate houses, they are intervening, they are dictating to the government, they are deciding the policies of the government, they are changing the policies of the government. So it is absolutely independence to corporate houses to run the economy. This I do not agree. And the people talk about RBI has intervened. But Mr. Chidambaram, the finance minister, spoke a different thing in the parliament. When we questioned what is the root cause for the depreciation of Indian rupee, I myself asked, in 1947, 1 rupee was equal to $1. Now, what is the situation? Mr. Chidambaram was replying, that time what was the price of 10 gram gold? Now, what is the price of 10 gram gold? This analogy was opposed even by Piyush Goyal of
Mr. Raja,
BJP. What is this analogy?
Mr. Raja, the point is...
Let me finish.
Mr. Piyush Goyal is joining us, Mr. Raja. Mr. Piyush Goyal is joining us.
When the Indian economy is growing, let me finish. When the Indian economy is growing at 5%, GDP growth rate is 5%, and American GDP growth is only 2%. Dollar is not depreciating as Indian rupee is depreciating. What is the economic logic Mr. Chidambaram has been speaking inside Parliament and outside Parliament? And Reserve Bank. What is the Reserve Bank's intervention? I would like to know.
Mr. Piyush Goyal, the real question here is a question of confidence that we've been talking about. The RBI has intervened. We haven't seen that having anything but negative impact on the markets. The rupee breached the 62 rupee to a dollar mark today. The markets have completely tanked. Do you see this as a problem of sentiment, or do you see this more as a problem of fundamentals of the economy?
Navika ji, at the outset, I must say we are in a deep crisis. This government should wake up to reality. This government cannot afford to live in denial anymore. And I personally have been flagging off these issues right from 2010, when I first entered Parliament. In 2011 August, I made a very, very serious intervention in Parliament, highlighting some of the problems in the economy. And in 2012, when the finance bill was being debated, I had almost predicted to the last decimal point what will happen. And I am very, very sad to see a government which has not taken cognizance of any of our warning signals, any of the warning signals that almost the entire world could see. But we have a finance minister, we have a so-called economist prime minister, completely devoid of reality. What Mr. Raja just said is very correct. The finance minister, while discussing the economic situation on Wednesday, as recently as 2 days back, completely misled the House and misled the people of India with a bunch of statistics and a bunch of analogies which were totally misplaced. He can fool maybe some MPs if he thinks so. He can fool some people on his statements. But the world understands what is the reality. Take the analogy of rupee and gold that he used. If a rupee was equal to $1.47 and he says that now 10 grams of gold is not is from 88 rupees to 10 grams has become 30,000. He's missing a very important point, that gold does not yield income, but the rupee was also yielding some income for the last 67 years.
But Mr.
So he's completely talking nonsense on the floor of the House.
Responsibility that needs to be taken by the opposition as well. as far as the fundamentals of the economy are concerned, reform is something that the government has been extremely slow on.
Navika,
but added to the government's problems are the problems of the opposition. Legislations like the pension bill, the insurance bill, which should actually have come from you. They were started in the NDA regime, haven't seen the light of day. We are only seeing some sort of stalling activity as far as this is concerned by the BJP.
Navika,
so how do you expect the economy to go forward and actually instill confidence in the rupee and in investments in the country?
Navika, you are behaving as naive as the Honorable Finance Minister. Let me tell you what the reality is. What we left behind in the NDA, which is currently the opposition, was a strong, robust economy. In UPA 1, they did nothing. There was not a single reform. All through 5 years of UPA 1, they only benefited from what we had sowed, and the economic lag effect helped them pass through 5 years. In the UPA 2 also, if you go to see, there were 100 things to do. There were things to do in the power sector, in the road sector, infrastructure build out.
See, but
I have often talked to the government that out of the 100 steps that you can do,
round and round as we
Sanket, I'm answering.
Not answering the question.
Have some patience to listen.
Let's quickly.
Sanket.
I will react to this.
Have some patience.
Mr. Goyal will come back to you. Just introducing two more panelists that we have on our show.
Sanket,
we'll come back to you. Just two more panelists that we have on our show.
Don't interrupt and answer. Sanket, don't interrupt and answer.
Okay,
let us finish the answer. You can talk after that, otherwise stop calling us. I am telling you, the UPA 2 did nothing in terms of consensus building. They did focus only on multi-brand retail, for which they have got not a single rupee of FDI. Whereas they should have focused on internalizing reform. They should have given all the power sector clearances. They should have allowed coal block auctions, which should have given them $100 billion.
Good point.
Why aren't they doing all these things?
Let's get the response from the Congress on that.
Navika in insurance, in 10 years, the only FDI that has come in is 7,900 crores. That's $1.2 billion. Is that the big ticket that is going to change the sentiment? What have they done about retrospective taxes? What have they done about SEZ? What have they done about supply side constraints?
We are opposing insurance bill.
They are diverting the issue and not focusing on the core issues.
Navika.
Dr. Mungekar, you have been charged as not focusing on the core issue. You've been quoting John Maynard Keynes. Keynes said that when there was a downturn in the economy, dig trenches and fill them. Is the government doing anything in terms of public investment? Is the government doing anything on creating jobs? The government is not doing anything on John Maynard Keynes' theory that you should have. Instead, what you're doing is doles after doles, food security bill, NREGA, which is only adding to the fiscal deficit. Dr. Mungekar.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. First of all, let me talk about ignorance of Piyush Goyal. It is absolutely ignorance of comparing Indian economy in 1947 in 2013 and 1 rupee is equal to $1 and gram of gold, etc., etc. It is absolutely ignorance. Second point, as you rightly mentioned, not a single pro-growth or pro-development bill, such as land acquisition and insurance regulation, they did not allow to function. I will tell you, the budget session of 2013, we worked only for 94 hours and 92 hours we disrupted. Entire December 11 session, 23 days, they were lost. They were not allowing to debate any policy, just obstruction. Now coming to the point, what you mentioned of John Keynes is absolutely, let me make you again one thing clear. Keynes talk about autonomous investment independent of rate of profit. And let me tell you, if government would have not invested in with these welfare measures, with some people like Mr. Surjit Bhalla, they are defining as scam, wastage of resources, then the unemployment issue would have been triggered off. Today, because of this unemployment guarantee scheme, nearly 200 to 250% days jobs are created. That is increasing the purchasing power of the people. And whatever measures you adopt, whatever cut-off point of poverty you adopt, the basic point is poverty between 2004-5 and 2011-12 has definitely declined independent of the lowest cut-off point. That's why the question is,
Okay,
if government, Raja,
but
totally
Mr.
misunderstood.
Mr.
Since
Mungekar,
1991, 1 minute.
Mr. Mungekar,
no,
the
one
point
minute,
that
just a
people
minute,
will
just a
ask
minute.
you
I
is
want,
that
no, 1
since
minute.
August
I want
14,
that,
2012
please.
and much before that, Mr. Chidambaram has been assuring the parliament, the people of this country, that this is a temporary phenomenon. The government has interfered. There will efforts be made on the part of the government. It's been close to a year and over a year that this sentiment is not changing. My point is the government fighting a losing battle? We'll come back to you, but just getting in two voices which we haven't introduced in the show. Mr. Derek O'Brien.
Yes, Dr. Mungekar, we'll come back to you, but Derek, let me get you in at this point.
Navika, I would like to respond.
You participated in that debate.
I will wait.
Yes, Mr. Raja. Yes, Mr. Raja, I'll come to you, but let me get in the first comments from Derek O'Brien. Derek, you know, is it the investment sentiment? Is it the sentiment in the stock markets? Is it the sentiment in the economy? Is it the sentiment about the confidence of the rupee? What do you think is at the bottom of this reaction that's coming both by the markets and the rupee today?
Okay, Navika, I've been listening to the last 5 gentlemen very patiently, so let me give me a little time to make some points. The first point is you mentioned whether it's stock market and this market or that market. I think there's one very important market which is more important than all these markets. Otherwise, we're getting into such a high fundu technical economic discussion. That's an index which we call the API. And that is even more important than any Sensex. This is called the Alu Piyaz Index. And this is where the Congress is living in total denial. Because if you look at the price of onions, and we can have another debate on how we can give you, on the floor of the House, we even gave the Congress-led UPA, minority UPA, some suggestions as to how to bring down the price of onions and how they can perhaps use the Bengal model to control the price of onions. Now this onion is a big issue. And onion has won the Congress seats in the past. This time it will be their doom. Dr. Mungekar, the well-known economist, I mean, you can imagine how far Congress are from reality. There's no use quoting economists now from 1936. It's now even the Congress MP in the Rajya Sabha, Manishankar Iyer, said, you know, the prices of onions have gone up because there's been hoarding. The housewife doesn't want to hear these explanations. I think the very interesting political point made after that by Dr. Surjit Bhalla, he made a very interesting point, and I want to ask the same question to Mr. Mungekar. The Congress party knows that in September the Trinamool Congress walked out of government, threw back those ministries, the DMK walked out, their numbers are down, and Mr. Bhalla raised a point. Why then are they going around flagging the bull? With what is this need for a food security bill now? What is the need for Telangana now? Congress party know they are down and out, and yet they are trying to unnecessarily do this kind of nonsense instead of focusing. We have lots of suggestions to offer, whether it comes to petroleum prices, whether it comes to fertilizer prices. What are the steps we asked the finance minister? What has he done for fertilizer prices? What has been done for stopping gold plating of fertilizers? Look at the petro prices. All these things. But if the Congress party believe they're going to be in total denial, we're not going to solve these problems. I want to give you some real figures of the last 12 months.
You will now need to sit in the opposition till the Congress is in power. Till the Congress is in power. I will, but let me get the answers that you've raised questions from Dr. Mungekar. You've raised all these questions. You'll have to sit in opposition till the
you
Congress
can ask the
has its time.
questions.
So
I have to give you 4 quick.
Shall I respond to some of the issues?
But my question to Dr. Mungekar, the real question is that if the rupee falls at the rate it has been falling, the fact is that Alu Piyaz Index, that's what Derek is talking about, that is already completely spiraling out of control as far as the government is concerned. But the next round of price revisions will be the petroleum prices. And Dr. Guruswamy, if I can get you in, I mean, where is the inflation? The inflation rates, the wholesale inflation price index is being showing something like 5.79. Do you believe in those numbers? We're sitting on yet another revision of petrol and diesel prices with the rupee falling at the rate it has. Clearly, where is the government going wrong as far as managing the economy is concerned?
Navika, the problem
Navika, will you allow the left to explain its position?
That is the problem. You can't get a consensus.
I'll come back to you, Mr. Raja. Let's listen to Mr.
You
Mohan
can't get a
Guruswamy.
consensus in this country. You can't get politicians doing rationally and reasonably. They will use every chance to abuse each other. Today is a grave situation. Right? You've got a current account deficit which is out of control. You've got a rupee which is depreciating rapidly. You've got a stock market which tanked today. I mean, it went up 700 points the last 4 sessions, went down say 60 today, but still a bad sign to get a sudden drop like this. But are these people talking about it? They won't talk about it. They'll keep abusing each other. That's what happens in parliament. That's what happens in media. So you don't get a proper discourse in this country. You don't get any solutions to problems. Because if Derek O'Brien spoke about petrol prices, if the prices go up in the international market, then prices have to go up here, because already the oil companies lose 1.5 lakh crores a year on oil sales. You can't, and that is a form of subsidy.
Some old statistics.
Don't answer to that argument.
Will they agree to a price increase? No. But the point is, he will score a point. He will say, give me petrol at 10 rupees a litre. You won't get it. It's not possible. You have to get a consensus on this. I'm surprised about Surjit. Surjit talks about Telangana. What has Telangana got to do with the economy? Nothing to do with the economy.
IBN.
But you know, and
but the food security bill in some way has
the food security bill, yes, we have to look at it carefully. The amount of subsidy is out of control today. When this government came to power in 2009, 2004, the total subsidy as a part of the budget was 9%. It has gone up to 16% now. It's on a subsidy binge. Subsidy comes, and these are direct subsidies. There are indirect subsidies. Indirect subsidies are your fuel costs, your public sector losses, your power sector losses. You would address all that. You can't have these kind of losses and not have this problem.
So simply put, Dr. Mungekar, we are living beyond our means. And therefore, the question to the Congress party is, just before the elections, is it wise for the country to go in for a food security bill when you can barely bear the cost of the earlier programs that you started? And that also has an impact on the sentiment of the economy.
Navika, will you allow me?
Mr. Raja, I'll come to you right after Dr. Mungekar.
Fully justify food security bill, irrespective of the cost. One minute. I fully justify and support food security bill to the last decimal point. For the very simple reason, according to me, food security
you will because it is a flagship program of the Congress president. So the Congress will support it.
Just wait. One. No, forget about that. Don't act
you
like this.
You are duty bound to support.
Please wait.
But does the economics or the mathematics of it work out for the budget?
You asked me the question. Navika, you asked me the question of food. Navika, you asked me food security bill. Please listen my reply. Today we are spending around 75 to 80,000 rupees, crores of rupees. The food security bill cost will cost around 1,25,000 crores of rupees. It is nearly 40,000 crores of rupees. $1.8 trillion economy will not find very difficult to collect 40,000 crores of rupees more in order to implement food security bill. That's why please, food security bill is most essential, and that let us not make politicize of that.
Then
and
it's
I do not think that Congress is making that bill for the
Dr. Mungekar,
political
are you saying it is old wine in a new bottle?
This is the gimmick.
Are you saying it is old wine in a new bottle?
No, not at all.
It's not even wine, it's a gimmick.
We can debate about it, but my point is, forget about Congress party. Don't bring Congress party and don't bring policy. As individual citizen, every citizen of this country is entitled as a matter of right to minimum food requirement as basic fundamental right, and for that, forget about Congress. I would have asked for Congress if they are not introduced. That's why I fully defend, and 30 to 40,000 crores of rupees more or additional revenue or expenditure is not absolutely difficult, and if it is difficult, government must make necessary arrangement for that. That is so far food security bill is concerned. Now, Mr. Derek has trivialized the debate by talking about his Aloo Pyaj index. This is the index after Einstein he has prepared. The question is, what is, I don't justify Aloo prices rise, but the question is in the entire total index.
No, Dr. Mungekar, I'm glad you said this.
What is the weightage of Aloo?
I'm glad you said this.
My question is within 10-15 days.
I'm glad you've said this.
No, no,
I've trivialized the debate. I'm glad you said this, and I'll say it again.
No, absolutely, because
you talk about teams, I'll talk about aloo piyaz. That's the difference between the Congress and the rest.
Prices will collapse to 10. Now just listen. Your aloo price index, just listen. Within next 15 days, you will get aloo prices 10 to 15 rupees kg. What is the farmers were doing? Mr. Sharad Pawar raised correct question. When aloo prices were 4 and 5 rupees kg and farmers were throwing away on the road, what was the reaction of Mr. Derek? They should sell free of charge. I do not
Dr.
justify
present let me ask you a very simple question. Let me ask you a very simple question. Let me ask you a very simple question. Let me ask you a few simple questions. Yeah, you answer these simple questions, because I think what Mr. Gurumurthy said and Mr. Bhalla said, we are looking for solutions. There's no use having a theoretical debate here. You give me 3 simple answers. Number 1.
Derek, you asked me question.
You reduce the LPG cap.
Don't take time. You ask
I'm asking you. You reduce the LPG cap on 3 questions, sir. You reduce the LPG cap. How much money have you saved by reducing the LPG cap? Question number 1. Question number 2. Why have you put gas prices up? 1 minute. Why have you put gas prices up by a large time from April 1? Why not September, October? And number 3, why does the Congress party still talk in such an arrogant way? When I'm talking about aloo piyaz, you said, forget about aloo piyaz. Forget about aloo piyaz. What do you want to talk about? Some cock and bull theory?
But Derek, these are questions you could have asked. You could have asked in the debate on the economy in Parliament. Clearly, parties like yours are not raising these questions in Parliament. You're raising these questions outside Parliament. And therefore, the point that Pawan Guruswamy made, there is absolutely no consensus among the politicians is half the problem.
To be fair to us, Mr. Guruswamy, Navika, the same 5 questions I asked today, they were put to the finance minister day before yesterday on the floor of Parliament. They were the same 5 questions. I think Mr. Guruswamy made a good point about Parliament running, and I agree with him. Parliament must run, but the principal job of making Parliament run is the government's job.
Yes, Dr. Bhalla, you've been made a direct charge by a fellow economist who says, what's the connection between Telangana and the economy?
There were 2 or 3 points that have been made. First, you mentioned, I think, that the opposition has been blocking Parliament in terms of the insurance bill and in terms of some other bills. And that is responsible for the slow growth of the Indian economy. May I remind you and all the viewers that we didn't have the insurance bill when we were growing at 8, 9, 10%. So therefore, to blame the opposition for the fact that we've got slow growth because they didn't allow the insurance bill to be passed is completely erroneous. Second, there was a point made, your original question was, why is there lack of confidence in the Indian economy? And this is my response to Mr. Gurumurthy. Confidence in the Indian economy, and in particular, I was talking about the rupee. The exchange rate of an economy is determined both by economic fundamentals and by politics. And this, whether you look at the dollar rate or whether you look at the Thai baht or whether you look at the European euro rate, politics determines a large part. That is where Telangana comes in. So let us be very clear. The politics also affects the rupee. Either Mr. Gurumurthy says that politics has nothing to do with the rupee, and then he can go ahead and try and substantiate.
Today,
but
the current account deficit, the unabated import of gold, the fallen remittances, all this are affecting the value of the rupee. Just to link it to Telangana is, absurd. I know Surjit's wife was on some Telangana committee.
But politics is
that getting
but that's not the issue. But that's not the issue. The issue is that let's not bring in extraneous factors. You got to deal with hard economic facts.
Before you make allegations,
current account deficit is out of control.
Why Mr. Gurumurthy, you interrupted me. Mr. Gurumurthy, let me finish. Mr. Gurumurthy, let me finish. And then you can have all the time you want. All I am stating is that there are several factors.
He's listening to you.
Again you're interrupting? Okay. All I'm saying is that there are several factors that affect the economy and the value of the currency. The value of the currency in particular is affected by economic factors like the ones you're mentioning, and is affected by political factors like the one I'm mentioning. Either you maintain that political factors have nothing to do with the value of a currency, you can go right ahead. But please, you cannot bring in economic factors, which you know, I agree, affect the value of a currency, and negate the importance of politics in this.
So Mr. Surjit Bhadda very categorically saying that you can't really separate politics from the economics. Get that point. Quick closing comments as we are running out of time in this particular debate. Mr. Mohan Guruswamy, just coming back to the main topic on where we started, is the government fighting a losing battle, with an adverse market sentiment at this moment in a pre-election year? Do you think it will be disastrous?
I'm glad there is some justice, because in 1998, I used to go out on TV every night to defend against the price of onions, and people like Pranab Mukherjee would say, prices of onions are going up and you guys can't run the economy. Okay? And I'm glad it's happening, because government doesn't control prices of onions. It is controlled by the market. It's controlled by a demand-supply relationship. It's controlled by the amount of money you have and the underproduction.
But the governments can control supply chains.
But you can't.
They can control supply chains.
You can't control.
And that's why.
Navika, you can't control. Cannot forever control prices by importing.
No,
you import onions at higher price.
Domestic supply chains can also be looked at very, very closely and can be improved upon. But Piyush Goyal has been raising his hand. Piyush, what do you see the current economy problem? Is it just a problem of the sentiment, the confidence levels in the government, in the steps they are taking, or do you think it goes beyond that?
I think very clearly politics determines economics, and especially in an election year with 6 months left to the election, and a government which is completely discredited for the mismanagement of the economy. The markets are not going to trust it. And then the finance minister, when he gives us statements which mislead the nation, is not doing any good. In a manner of speaking, in the Rajya Sabha, he has almost suggested to the housewife or to the investors, don't put your money in the rupee, put it in gold, because gold will appreciate better and your rupee is going to get depreciated. So in a way, I think the finance minister has sent a very wrong signal to the market. He has claimed that he has financed current account deficit very honorably, whereas the fact is that the external debt is keeping on increasing. We may maintain forex at 290 billion, but if the external debt has gone up from 100 billion to 390 billion under UPA and may very soon breach the 500 billion mark, with 172 billion of repayments due in the next 12 months, I can't visualize how they will even manage the economy. You can't keep borrowing to feed the day-to-day needs. Ultimately, we need to have fiscal and structural improvements, which is what the NDA under Mr. Vajpayee did. They left behind a robust, strong fundamentals in the economy. This government should focus on sending a message to the world that they mean business, they will cut down on wasteful expenditure, they'll bring down corruption in their regime, they will not give out government money as doles and subsidies, but will actually invest in infrastructure, which in any case this government cannot do, because there is no faith in this government. I think we should quickly move into elections and let the people of India bring a government, a decisive leader, an honest leader who can solve the problems of this country.
That's a very, very big roadmap that you've laid out before the government and the Congress party. Closing comments to Dr. Mungekar. Dr. Mungekar, there's absolutely no confidence in the market, in the rupee. There's no investment that is coming
in this government.
And clearly, prices and inflation is a huge problem for the common man. Just where is your party going to take this country and this economy? Quick closing comments from Dr. Mungekar.
I think there are absolutely three. I will make three sentences. One, government is absolutely clear and aware of the problems facing the Indian economy. They are namely current account deficit, inflation, low rate of growth, and the fiscal deficit. And government is trying to take the measures. Second, I appreciate Mr. Piyush Goyal's daring statement that if they had put the economy in 2003-4 in such robust economy, they were driven out of power. They were reduced from 186 to 116. This is the shining India according to them. That this is just daring. The level of confidence that Piyush is talking about, that is the reason that people of India rejected them outright, and they also will be rejecting in 2014 election. This is the daring level of confidence which is beyond
Dr.
logic
Mungekar,
and beyond according
you
to
have gone on from 3 sentences to nearly 10.
To 25 sentences.
3 sentences to nearly 10, and let's see if the confidence levels of Trinamool Congress and CPI has gone up from that statement. Derek, one last closing comment from you.
2 sentences. I would suggest the central the government, the UPA minority-led Congress government, takes a look at the GDP figures, the industry growth figures, the agricultural growth figures, and the service industry figures of Bengal, which is far ahead of the national figures. And number 2, this is not a warning, but neither is it a prediction. Go back, the Aloo Piyaz index helped Dr. Mungekar's party to come to power in 1998. They won Delhi, they won Madhya Pradesh, and they won Rajasthan. He calls the Aloo Piyaz index a trivial matter. I think it's a very serious matter for the housewife, because that onion eventually will make the Congress cry and not the housewife.
No politician can complete what he wants to say in 2 sentences. So let me get in Mr. D. Raja. Mr. D. Raja, do you think this is a pre-election year nervousness, or do you think that the economy still has some scope to come back on rails?
I do not think economy has any scope to come back. I doubt very much the revival of Indian economy, because there are some reasons. The economic situation, the present economic situation is the result of the implementation of the anti-people neoliberal economic policies, which need to be reviewed, and India needs a different paradigm of economic development. And people are talking about market forces. Government cannot do, it is for the market forces. Indian state even today is supposed to be a welfare state. This state cannot be allowed to be a neoliberal state which is going on an onslaught against the poor people, toiling people of this country. And government should spend on, there must be increase in the public spending on health, education and people's welfare. And if you talk about resources, there is scope for resources, and government should tap the indigenous resources, and government should tax the corporate houses instead of giving them concessions in the name of revenue foregone. 5,50,000
Mr. D. Raja, as far as politicians are concerned, there can be no economy of words. We're completely out of time. Doom and gloom if you hear the opposition, but lots of things to look forward to as far as the government is concerned. We'll have to wait and watch for the Congress party and the finance ministry to announce some measures in the coming week to restore the confidence in the markets as well as in the rupee. Piyush, we are completely out of town, but I'll give you that indulgence of one last comment if you're really going to be brief about it.
To Dr. Mungekar, you can fool the public once, you can fool the public twice, but you can't fool the public all the time. So let's get into elections quickly and save this country from the corrupt and inept Congress
regime. The BJP, Mr. Piyush Goyal, let's wait and watch what the public has to say to the BJP in 2014. We'll close the debate at this stage on the sentiment within the market, and clearly doom and gloom is what everybody is predicting. We'll have to, of course, wait and watch for the government to restore some amount of confidence in the coming days.